Hello and welcome to another episode of We the People, the only show that takes an in-depth look at local, state, and national politics as it pertains to the East Alabama area, particularly the Anniston and Oxford area. My name is Corey A. Bradford. Thank you all for joining us. We were off last week, took a little break. Now we're back and we have a lot to cover. In the last week or so, we saw both the Super Tuesday primaries and we also saw what we call Super Saturday primaries. And all in all, nearly 20 states casted their ballots both for the Republican Party and the Democrat Party in terms of who they want to see as the nominee this fall for the presidential election. And we're going to be reviewing all those results and what they mean for the candidates and what it means for Alabama. We also have a very special segment about Super Tuesday. On Super Tuesday, I went to Birmingham, Alabama, along with a producing friend of mine's, and we canvassed the area, and we actually got some footage both from the Bernie Sanders headquarters there and from the Hillary Clinton headquarters there. So it's going to be very interesting to look at that footage, and we'll have that segment coming up later. And we also have another very special segment we're doing this week, political quiz time. We went out to Oxford Lake, which is, if you're familiar with the Anniston Oxford area, you know all about Oxford Lake. We went there and we quizzed a couple of people to see just how much does the average citizen know about politics and American government. So we got a very exciting episode, a lot of things to discuss, but first things first, let's get into the local events of the last few weeks here. All right, so in our local events section this week, there isn't really a whole lot of things going on locally speaking, politically speaking. But there is one thing that I wanted to mention just in passing. The Alabama Supreme Court in this past week has refused to challenge the U.S. Supreme Court on the constitutionality or unconstitutionality of gay marriage in the state of Alabama. Basically what that means is there was a probate judge who was basically asking the Alabama Supreme Court to allow them to continue to hold bans on gay marriage in the state. And the Alabama Supreme Court basically said no. Like, this is something that has been constitutionally approved by the Supreme Court, and it doesn't really do any good to continue to fight it. We are wasting time and we could be doing more important things. And that's basically what they said. And so now, even though there are some areas that are still refusing to issue license and things of that nature, there have been thousands of gay couples that have been married here, probably not thousands, but at least in the hundreds that have been married here in Alabama, and it is technically no longer against the law to do so anywhere in the country. But particularly in Alabama, the Alabama Supreme Court has said that it is not going to fight on this issue anymore in terms of trying to keep it banned in Alabama. Basically, what I wanted to say about this story was this is kind of a sign of the times. We really need to move past this. I mean, there are many things dealing with our Constitution, dealing with our government, dealing with politics, dealing with all sorts of issues, whether it's the environment, whether it's education, whether it's, corruption, crime. There are so many issues that we need to be focusing on. The private lives of Alabama citizens is not one of them. And so I think that the Alabama Supreme Court was in the right for refusing to challenge the U.S. Supreme Court on gay marriage. I think they understand that this is an issue that is just really a distraction, and it's not a very political issue. It doesn't really have a lot to do with other people who it doesn't even apply to, and it's just a waste of time to keep challenging it. Even Robert Bentley, the governor of Alabama, said when it first became constitutionally legal through the U.S. Supreme Court for any state to have gay marriage, even Robert Bentley said, this is an issue I'm not going to fight too hard against. I mean, he said he didn't support it. He said he wasn't in favor of it. But he said there's no need to go through years and years and years of court time and filing time, trying to fight something that, quite frankly, is just not going to be stopped in the United States of America, at least in this day and age. It's just not going to be stopped. And so I applaud the Alabama Supreme Court for that decision. And I would implore most of you out there who disagree with that decision to, you gotta just get over it. It's the sign of the times. We've seen things like this before. Obviously, there's a religious component as to why a lot of people are trying to keep gay marriage out of Alabama, but it's more than that. It's more of a cultural thing. It's more of a traditional thing. That's just something that's culturally frowned upon in Alabama, but we need to get over it because it doesn't really have anything to do with anyone else's lives. If it doesn't affect you, it doesn't affect you. This is a country where people are, as long as they're not hurting anybody, they're allowed to pretty much do what they want to do. And that doesn't really hurt anybody, honestly. And so it's something that we need to kind of just get over and move forward, because there's a lot of other issues that are more important that we need to be focusing on here in Alabama.